Murder House is the third book in a trilogy. Ironically, it's the one book without any murder.
Argo Fump Book Review. Argo Fump Book Review.
After a dirt bike race, we're introduced to two new characters, George and Georgina. They take up at least a third of this book. I don't want to be mean, but who cares? We know they're not the culprits because they were on the other side of the country during the last two books. Please stop wasting so much time on them. The twins are spoiled rich kids. There's a big fight over whether or not it's fair for them to start halfway through the show. The host interrupts because she doesn't want the contestants fighting. Really? The reality TV show does not want contestants arguing. But that makes for great TV viewing. The weird part is that after Veronica stops the fight, she immediately goads them into a second fight where they recap the events of the previous books. So she wanted them to stop fighting because she wanted them to start fighting. I don't get it. Veronica mentions the 4-year-old girl who saw her mother get killed here 10 years ago. The girl thinks a demon killed her mom. In a terrible continuity error, this book says the girl's name is Nina. She was called Anna in the last two books. Seriously, how bad is the editing when this trilogy can't even get the culprit's name right? Bryn leaves the room because she can't handle hearing anything about Nina. There's another argument. James and George are particularly aggressive, so they get suspect profiles. Everyone gets their own profile in this book. I don't like it. I understand. They need to reestablish all the characters and motives for the sake of new readers, but this goes on for far too long. The last suspect profile is on page 96. The main suspect should be established long before then. Frank finds Bryn in the library. She knows where the secret light switch is, almost like she's been in this house before. Bryn finds a stick figure crayon drawing of Nina being attacked by a demon. Everyone panics. As in, Anne starts screaming. James and George get into a fist fight. Calm down, people. It's just a stick figure drawing. The panic continues when the culprit dumps ketchup on Bryn's teddy bear. Bryn is so upset, she temporarily reverts to her original personality of being the weird girl who talks about random things like crawdad chromosomes. Olivia also gets a new personality in this book. I mean, we knew this book had a different author than the other ones because they changed the culprit's name, but still, we also know that it's a different author than the other books because they changed the characters' personalities. Also, who counts as a main character? I'm getting off topic. Anyway, Olivia also gets a new personality in this book. Now she hates rich people with a disturbing passion. She orders Frank, Gail, and Hal to do whatever it takes to make sure the rich kids lose. When Hal is reluctant to hurt other people, Olivia more or less forces him to agree. In the next two challenges, someone sabotages George's trampoline, and someone poisons Georgina's peach. How did the culprit know George likes trampolines and Georgina likes peaches? I thought the culprit was targeting people at random. That was the MO in the previous books. The Hardys come to the conclusion that George and Georgina are the culprits because they're twins. Only your twin would know you well enough to predict you would eat a peach. That's not the best reasoning, but of course the Hardys are correct. George and Georgina confess they were both sabotaging each other. They didn't do any of the other stuff, though, so the real culprit is still out there. Bryn has terrible nightmares. Gee, there must be a tragedy in her past. She goes to the fountain in the backyard. She says it was her favorite place when she was a kid. She quickly corrects herself and says, she meant she liked a different fountain. Not this one. She didn't grow up here. The culprit stabs Georgina. She's taken to the hospital, and everyone suspects George. That night, the culprit claws Bryn's face while she's asleep. Bryn clearly fought back against her attacker because she has blood and tissue under her nails. The problem is that nobody has scratch marks from her attack, and Olivia swears she didn't see anyone else in the room. So what happened? Frank realizes Bryn is the culprit. She attacked herself because she's secretly Nina. She has severe mental health issues. Whenever people talk about her mother's death, she blacks out and tries to kill someone. The Hardys purposely upset Nina, so she'll try to kill again. That way they can catch her red-handed. That is a terrible, terrible idea, Frank and Joe. They barely managed to stop Nina from killing herself. Nina's sent to a psychiatric hospital for treatment, and the TV show is cancelled. In a sense, that's good. There's no way they could have stretched out the reality show's premise for another 10 weeks. The end. Post-book follow-up. This book wasn't good. Ever since the trilogy started, I have complained there are too many characters to keep track of. I would have removed Hal, Gale, and Anne at the very least, because the three of them are not main characters in any of the books. They never become important to the overall story. Ripley was important in the first two books, but she got demoted to an extra in this one. I wonder why. I liked all the fighting in this book. It felt more like a reality TV show this time around. It kind of makes me wish that the trilogy had just kind of ignored the mystery sabotage aspect in favor of just being a trashy reality TV show the entire time. That could have been amusing. I didn't like the Hardys' investigation in this book. Like the two previous mysteries, the investigation was minimal. It feels like their detective work in this trilogy is limited to them discussing the case in private. There's little effort put into examining the crime scenes. I don't think they did that at all in this book. They checked alibis once, but then they didn't follow up on that. The culprit was predictable. I suspected Bryn was Nina in my review of the last book. This book was not subtle with its clues that Bryn knows things only Nina would know. The Hardys almost come across as idiots for not picking up on it. I could believe that Frank was blinded by his love for Bryn, but the Bryn-Frank romance storyline mostly disappeared in this book. And I'm kind of disappointed by that. I wanted to see more of the romance. It was good. I suppose this is a satisfactory conclusion to the trilogy because it's just as bad as the other two books. The entire trilogy needs a rewrite. The three books are too similar to each other. They need to get rid of half the characters, improve the reality TV show angle, and have the Hardys actively try to solve the case. That's what I would do in order to improve this trilogy. I was going to give this book a 4 out of 10, like the first one, but I have to take away a point for changing the culprit's name in the last book. That is super sloppy writing. I give Hardy Boys Undercover Brothers number 24, Murder House, a 3 out of 10.